Last episode ended with one of the player characters staring into the cold, dead eyes of a horrifying entity known as the Stitchwraith. Okay then, I think I'm just gonna go now. Jay fled back through the streets of Amberwood and quickly found the rest of the party. After a short exchange of information, they needed a plan.
I hate to say it, but this seems kind of unimportant compared to the literal apocalypse. So I'm voting to skip this one and focus on the war.
Alinar's gonna have to take some time to rebuild his forces after we just beat him, so as long as we're quick, we can do it. How about this? We hunt down the Stitchwraith, then we kill the dragon that destroyed your home, and then we end the war, alright?
Fine, but we've got to be quick about it.
The party rushed back to the street where they'd first found the Stitchwraith and saw a jagged trail of blood leading to the doors of the new and improved Blinsky's Toys. Inside the dimly lit building, the party came up with the brilliant idea of splitting up and looking for clues, because splitting the party has famously never ever gone bad for anybody. Jay and Barash went to the left and soon arrived at a large statue of a bear. Hear me out, what if the Stitchwraith hid one of the bodies inside of the bear?
Why exactly would it do that?
Well, our GM is a little bit obsessed with Five Nights at Freddy's. Hey, I'm into FNAF a completely normal amount. Yeah, sure you are. Can you please just get back to the story? Yeah, alright. So Brash, as I was saying, we should look inside the bear statue.
I'm not entirely sure what just happened or who you're looking at, but sure, I guess that sounds like a plan.
They approached the bear statue and found that stuffed inside was the rotting corpse of a kobold, which the party didn't recognize at all, but it was one of the other members of Emra Scarfeather's team from the Ambrek bank heist. So back in episode 5, Emra Scarfeathers and his group of criminals had worked together to rob the bank in the middle of the city. However, in the course of this heist, they'd burned down some of the buildings in the city, and one of which was the original Blinsky's Toys. But not just the building, no. Blinsky himself was still inside as it burned, and as he died, he was furious. That anger kept him tethered to the material realm, trapping his spirit here so he could get his revenge. Now, back to the present, while Barashk and Jay were doing that, Cyril and Plunk ran into Blinsky's son, who was also just named Blinsky because that wasn't confusing at all.
Hey, Blinsky 2.0, how's it going? Have you seen any terrifying monsters in the store recently?
No. Why are you in my store? We'll be asking the questions here. Now tell us, has anything strange been happening in this store recently? Okay, yeah, toys have been moving around on their own a lot, and also I've occasionally been hearing noises from the workshop in the back. That's actually why I was up this late. Before Blinsky 1.0 had died, he'd been working on a project. Something he had been hoping would save the business. A clockwork animatronic. It was still incomplete when he died, but after his spirit possessed it, he knew what he had to do. His plan was to kill everyone who had been a part of the heist, and finish the animatronic by building himself a body out of their corpses. Plunk and Cyril ran to the back room and found the Stitchwraith. It turned towards them and a fight broke out. However, since only 2 members of the party were actually there, they started losing pretty quickly. Which is when Plunk had a truly fantastic idea. He lit the building on fire. The building that he was currently inside of.
Hey, if it works in Call of Cthulhu, then it should work in here too.
At this point, Barashk and Jay also joined in on the fight, and it started to even out a lot more. However, the longer the fight continued, the further the flames spread. Soon the building was engulfed in a raging inferno, and the party's chance of escaping was dwindling more and more. Then Barashk got a lucky cleave in and sliced the Stitchwraith in half. The party turned and fled, and the upper half of the Stitchwraith tried to follow, clawing at the ground with its damaged arms, but it was too injured. Once more, Blinsky burned to death on the floor of the shop that he had spent so much of his life working on, but this time, his soul finally left the material plane, and he was free. Now that the party was done with their first side quest, they only had one left to complete before facing off against the big bad of the campaign. But the party was interrupted in the street by Vanmorn, the totally normal bookstore owner. Wait up a sec, I forgot to tell you something the other week. So that crown you have, it's not just a crown, it's also a key to the secret vault of the Thief Lord. It's buried beneath Silverwick and has a bunch of items you'll probably want to grab.
How exactly do you know this?
Teleportation spell.
I don't know about you guys, but I really trust that guy. We should go to the vault.
He did say there'd be loot, so I'm in. And so the party traveled to the Thief Lord's vault up in the north, where they found an absolutely insane amount of extremely powerful items. It was totally balanced, yep, trust me. In addition to magic items and armor, the party also got a few million silver pieces, so they could buy basically anything they wanted at this point, though I did make sure that the silver pieces split unevenly between the party, because I'd accidentally been doing that for almost the entire campaign, so eventually I just started doing it on purpose as a bit. However, that's almost unimportant compared to the next item, a giant mech dragon named Trash. Now, you may be thinking, why would you give that to the party? And yeah, I'm also thinking that, but regardless, I did give this to them, so they had that now, I guess. And lastly, there was a letter from Merlos the Thief Lord himself, left here to help the future Thief Lord fight against Alinar. The first page of it was finally giving us the lore about the whole situation that we'd been hoping for. So a long time ago, there was this rich guy named Alinar who bought the Island of Venzor and built himself a massive mansion in the mountains. However, beneath this mansion, he discovered a rift to another dimension, one that was full of an extremely powerful material known as eldrite. And the thing that made eldrite extremely special is that it was a living metal/crystal that could influence whoever wields it. Now, Alinar made the completely sane decision to make an army and conquer the world with it. However, on the other side of the world, there was an extremely advanced nation known as the Academy that wasn't a huge fan of Alinar's whole thing, so they forced every other country to start sending their criminals to the island to fight him. A free and endless stream of soldiers to throw into the meat grinder to hopefully be able to defeat him. At first it was working. They pushed Alinar back into his dimension and began to build a nation on the island. Then Alinar adapted. He began to merge the eldrite with the corpses of those he defeated, and these hybrid beings were far more powerful than the crystal constructs he'd been using before. After only a few months, he'd reconquered almost the entirety of Venzor, and soon there was only one city remaining. But then a lone bard arrived. He banished the eldrite army back into their own dimension and sealed the gate behind them. So Alinar's original army had been made up of 4 leading generals. The first 2 were the Rogue and the Barbarian, which the party recognized as Guppy and Imsh, who they killed in the last episode. Then there was someone known as the Chef, a towering half-orc who slew his enemies with his meat cleaver and rode into battle atop a monstrous beast. And lastly, there was... oh, weird, it looks like the next paragraph was scribbled out. It looks like the last general was named the Shade, but I can't make out any of the other words.
I am 100% certain that that is not a problem that's gonna come back to bite us later.
Now, as for Merlos' plan to actually defeat Alinar, in the chest next to the letter there was an eldrite stake, which was heavily enchanted by extremely powerful rune magic. All they needed to do was find Alinar somewhere in the eldrite dimension, defeat him, and then plunge the spike into his heart. The spike will lock his ability to use any of his power, and the runes will create an eldrite coffin around him, which will seal itself with some of the strongest magic ever known to Arkayes. All of those that have been built by him will die permanently, and the portal to our world will close for good. So it sounds like we know what we're gonna do after killing Barashk's dragon.
We're really gonna just trust this? What if it's a trap to lure us into the other dimension?
They gave us a giant mech dragon! If that's not enough to buy our trust, then I don't know what is. I enjoyed the part where he discussed plunging a stake into somebody's heart. The party then flew through the skies atop trash to find the non-mechanical dragon and kill it. And after a bit of scouting, they'd found him, a towering ancient black dragon resting in a muddy clearing between mountains. Originally, I planned for this to be an entire big encounter, with cool terrain features happening every turn and extra enemies slowly being drawn to the sounds of conflict and joining in. However, what actually ended up happening was the party flew in on the back of their giant mech dragon and killed the ancient black dragon in like 2 rounds, so yeah.
That was a lot easier than I thought it was gonna be.
Yeah, that was amazing. I can't believe Merlos named this little guy Trash. Well, we're changing that right now. From now on, his name is Treasure. Now that the last side quests were done, the party flew towards Merlos' mansion and made their way down into the bowels of the estate. So I guess this is it. Is everybody ready?
Yeah! And with all these awesome magic items you just got, what could possibly go wrong?
And so the party went through the portal, ready to stop this invasion once and for all. However, that's gonna have to wait until next episode, so don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss that when it gets uploaded. Also, I have a Patreon if you want to help support the channel. You get access to a few short horror stories I've written, and new ones are occasionally posted every once in a while. Either way, I'll see you in the next video.